The day Margaret Chen decided to die, she made a list. Not of regrets or unfinished business, but of people who had shown her kindness. 27 names in shaky handwriting, catalogued over 73 years of living. She folded the paper twice, tucked it into her coat pocket, and walked to the bridge where the city lights reflected off the black water like fallen stars. What she didn't know was that somewhere across town, a 12-year-old girl named Emma was writing her own list, and Margaret's name was at the very top. Margaret had been invisible for so long she'd almost forgotten what it felt like to be seen. After Harold died, after the kids moved to Seattle and Phoenix and only called on birthdays, after the neighborhood grocery became a luxury condo and her book club disbanded because everyone was either dead or in assisted living, she discovered that being old in America meant fading a little more each day until you were just a ghost haunting your own life. Her Social Security barely covered rent. Her arthritis made painting impossible, and painting had been the only thing that made her feel like Margaret instead of just another elderly woman taking too long at the crosswalk. But that list in her pocket, those 27 names, they were proof she'd mattered once. Mrs. Rodriguez, who'd helped her carry groceries up 3 flights of stairs every week for 5 years. The mailman who always asked about her day. The teenager at the coffee shop who remembered she took 2 sugars, no cream. Small kindnesses from near strangers, because that's all she had left. Her own children had become strangers too, their voices hollow through the phone, always rushing to another meeting, another soccer game, another life that didn't have room for an old woman who moved too slow and remembered too much. The bridge was quiet. Margaret gripped the cold railing and looked down. It would be quick. It would be over. And maybe, she thought, maybe someone would find that list and know that the woman who jumped had tried to see the good in people, even at the end. "Excuse me, ma'am." Margaret turned. A girl stood behind her, skinny and nervous, clutching a worn backpack decorated with pins of bands Margaret didn't recognize. She had dark circles under her eyes and a split lip that looked recent. "You're Margaret Chen, aren't you?" the girl asked. Margaret blinked. No one had said her full name in months. "How do you?" "From the library. You volunteer there, right? On Tuesdays and Thursdays." The girl stepped closer, and Margaret noticed she was shaking. "You helped me 3 months ago. I needed help with my English essay about kindness, and everyone kept saying the computers were for adults only, but you." She swallowed hard. "You gave me your spot. Waited another hour so I could finish my homework." Margaret remembered. A quiet girl, anxious, typing frantically. "That was nothing," Margaret said softly. "Just an hour." "It wasn't nothing." Emma's voice cracked. "I got an A, my first all year. My foster mom said if I didn't bring my grades up, she'd send me back. That A, it changed everything. I started believing maybe I could actually graduate, maybe I wasn't stupid like my dad always said." Tears streamed down her face now. "You saved me, and you didn't even know it." Margaret's hands trembled on the railing. "I didn't. I've been looking for you," Emma continued, digging into her backpack. "I wrote you a letter. Took me forever because I wanted to say it right. How you're my hero. How I want to be like you when I'm older, helping people who feel invisible because I know what that's like." She held out an envelope covered in careful handwriting. "I went to the library today to give you this, but they said you quit volunteering. I asked where you lived, and this guy Carlos who works there said he couldn't give out addresses, but he was worried about you too, said you seemed sad lately. He gave me your name, and I just started walking, hoping I'd find you somehow. I prayed, actually. First time I prayed since my mom died." Margaret took the letter with shaking hands. The envelope said, "To my hero Margaret," with a heart dotting the I. "Please don't do it," Emma whispered. "I know that's why you're here. I can see it in your eyes because I have those same eyes. I was here 2 weeks ago, standing right where you are." She touched the railing. "But then I remembered you. How you smiled at me like I mattered. How you didn't look at me like I was some broken foster kid, just a person who needed help with homework. I thought, if someone that kind exists in the world, maybe the world isn't completely terrible. Maybe there's a reason to stay." Margaret's vision blurred. "I'm nobody. I don't matter to anyone. You matter to me." Emma's voice was fierce now. "You matter so much I've been walking around this city for 3 hours looking for you. You matter to Carlos at the library who's been worried sick. You matter to everyone whose life you touched without even realizing it. She pulled a crumpled piece of paper from her pocket. I made a list too. Of people who made me want to live. You're number one. There's 17 more names, but you're the top because you showed me that kindness isn't dead. That there are still people who give away their computer time to some scared kid they don't even know. Margaret's knees buckled. Emma caught her, this small girl holding up a woman 3 times her age, both of them crying now on a bridge where the city lights reflected off water that suddenly didn't look like fallen stars but like possibilities. I'm so tired, Margaret sobbed. I'm so alone. You're not alone. I'm here. And if you come with me right now, if you choose to stay, I promise you won't be alone anymore. Emma's grip tightened. Please. I need you. The world needs people like you. Something shifted in Margaret's chest. She thought about the list in her pocket, those 27 kindnesses. Maybe the point wasn't that she'd been shown kindness. Maybe the point was that she'd been kind to others, and that kindness had rippled out in ways she couldn't see, touching lives she'd never know about. Like this girl. This beautiful, broken, brave girl who'd been saved by a simple hour at a library computer. Okay. Margaret whispered. Okay. They walked back together, Emma supporting Margaret's weight. At the end of the bridge, Carlos from the library was waiting, out of breath, his face flooded with relief. He'd been searching too, and behind him stood Mrs. Rodriguez with tears in her eyes, and the young mailman who always asked about her day, and the teenager from the coffee shop who knew her order. We couldn't find you, Carlos said. Emma called me, said she was worried. We all came looking. Margaret stared at them, these people from her list. This small constellation of kindness she thought only moved in one direction. I thought no one would notice if I was gone. Are you kidding? The teenager from the coffee shop stepped forward. You're the highlight of my morning shifts. You always ask about my classes, remember details about my life. Do you know how rare that is? How many customers just treat me like a robot that makes lattes? Mrs. Rodriguez took Margaret's hand. You helped me every week with groceries, but you also taught me English. Remember, you'd talk to me slowly, correct my grammar gently. My citizenship test is next month. I'm going to pass because of you. One by one, they shared their stories. The mailman whose wife had died last year, who looked forward to Margaret's questions because they made him feel human again. The people whose lives she'd touched without keeping score, without expecting anything back, just putting kindness into the world because that's who she was. Emma squeezed her hand. You want to know something? That essay you helped me with. The one about kindness. I wrote it about you. About a woman who gave up her computer time so a kid could do homework. My teacher said it was the most moving essay she'd read in 15 years. She submitted it to a contest. Emma's face broke into a smile. I won $5,000 for college. Because of you. Because you showed me what real kindness looks like. Margaret couldn't speak. She could only hold tight to Emma's hand and look at these faces, these people who'd been there all along, seeing her when she thought she was invisible. That night, Margaret didn't go home to her empty apartment. She went to Mrs. Rodriguez's place, where 6 other neighbors gathered for impromptu coffee and conversation. They talked until midnight about starting a real community group, about looking out for each other, about making sure no one felt alone. Emma sat beside Margaret the whole time, working on homework while occasionally looking up to smile, as if checking to make sure Margaret was still there. She was. And for the first time in years, Margaret understood she always had been there, leaving fingerprints on lives she thought she'd never touched, building bridges she couldn't see. The bridge she'd walked to that night had been meant for dying, but instead it became the place where she learned that kindness never dies. It multiplies, ripples out, comes back around in the trembling hands of a 12-year-old girl who needed saving just as much as the woman she saved. Margaret still had that list in her pocket, those 27 names. But now she started a new one, of people she could reach out to, people who might feel invisible too. Because Emma was right. The world needed people who gave away computer time and smiled at baristas and remembered details about strangers' lives. The world needed people who understood that sometimes the smallest kindness was the thing standing between someone and the edge. And Margaret Chen, who'd thought she was nobody, discovered she'd been somebody all along. Not because of grand gestures or fame or wealth, but because she'd chosen, every single day, to be kind. And kindness, it turned out, was the most powerful thing of all. It was what made us human. It was what kept us alive. It was what connected one lonely woman to one desperate girl on a bridge where the lights reflected on water, not like fallen stars after all, but like a path leading home.